and I work up here, working in the schools and a number of schools and other areas.
I'm Sharon Herbert, I'm the Youth and Schools Involvement Officer for the City of London Police. My primary role is around youth engagement.
What does CEOP stand for?
It stands for Child Exploitation Online Protection.
Who runs it?
It's run by a multi-agency approach of police officers, volunteers from third sector, soccer and other government agencies.
What sort of power does CEOP have?
It has an investigative power in terms of investigating crimes relating to internet misuse and abuse of young children.
What ways can you protect your child online?
There are loads and loads of different ways. Basically for parents it's about actually understanding what their children are looking at. Most parents have got absolutely no idea what their children are looking at. There's so many different things on the internet. It's a fantastic tool, it's something that children will use, but what they need to know is what their children are actually looking at. And that's the hard part for parents.
And in response to that, let me add this to you. Most of you at some point were probably taught how to cross the road. Yeah? Had swimming lessons? All that kind of stuff, yeah? But how many of you have actually been taught how to use the internet safely? Probably not many, alright? So that's why we are so keen to get this message right.
Okay. What is grooming?
Grooming is where somebody actually is trying to get to meet a child, and what they do is they will become an expert on whatever that child is on the internet. If you're on the internet as a person that plays chess or plays football, like swimming or something else, what they will do is they will become an absolute expert in that. And what they will do is try and talk to you and get you interested in them as a person that does exactly the same sport as you. But the whole intention is for them to meet you. That's what grooming, and that can take, seriously, years if that's what it needs. They will become an expert and they will become your friend, and the whole idea is to meet you. And that's not just girls, that's boys and girls.
Why do these people like to use the internet to contact children?
Because it's easy. You like using the internet, don't you? You use social networking sites, Bebo, Facebook, all those. It's an ideal way to try and engage young people, and it's also a very, very easy tool to use to disguise their true identity. Now, I think it's sort of common knowledge that a lot of these perpetrators are not 13, 14-year-old males, but they're substantially older. They're sort of 21, 22, 44, 50, whatever the age group, but they're able to hide their age, they're able to disguise themselves by using other people's information and data and such like. So that's why it's an absolute must for you to make sure that you protect yourselves from these individuals online.
Can a child be at risk in their own home sitting at a computer?
Absolutely. It's no different from the real world.
It's very easy actually, because as I said, with the grooming they will become your friend, become absolute experts at what your pet subject or your favourite subject is, and they will do whatever it takes, and they will lie to you, they will send false pictures, put their heads on different bodies, do whatever, make themselves look 20 years younger. There's loads and loads of things they can do, and it's all about just meeting you.
We all also want to, all of us want to feel special at some point in our lives, don't we? And I think as we grow older, as we go through our teenage years, it's very easy to want to feel as though we've got lots of friends and that we're respected. And these people actually exploit people in that position who really do need that reassurance.
Also, what are the risks to children and young people when gaming online?
Well, gaming is an ideal meeting space. What they'll do is they'll go on there, they'll become absolute experts at that particular game. The idea again is to meet people, and what they do is, if you're in a massive big room like this and you're all playing the same the game, I think Penguin World or whatever it's called, Club Penguin, that's one of the big ones around at the moment. And basically what's happening is people will go on there and they're way, way older than they should be for that site. And they actually put on there that they are looking for boys, they're looking for girls. And what they'll do is they'll try talking to you in the main playroom. So it's like being in this room. And what they'll do is they'll talk to you, and then they'll say, I'll tell you what, why don't we have a private conversation? And what they'll do is they'll say, why don't we go stand in the kitchen? And what they do is they try and take you out of this environment, because in this room, if somebody starts saying something that's wrong or inappropriate to you, somebody else in this room would say, wait, that's a bit naughty. Why are you saying that? But if they take you out there into the kitchen and start talking to you inappropriately or wrongly, then there's nobody there to argue, is there? And they'll start asking you to do things, and silly things, and then they'll play on that, and then eventually they'll try and blackmail you and bribe you into doing things. And that's their whole thing. And they can do that on gaming rooms, because you're playing with any people all over the world. You've got absolutely no idea who you're talking to at the other end of that internet link. It could be anybody. And that's the most important, that's one of the most important factors.
Do you have any specific guidance for protecting children using social networking websites?
Absolutely. The number one message is protect your identity. And just accept the fact that anything that you do post is open for anybody to use and abuse. So you wouldn't routinely tell anybody what your name was, your date of birth, your address, and all those things in the real world. So why would you want to be doing it in these social networking sites? Okay? You don't want to be making yourselves accessible.
You don't want to be also giving out private information. It's amazing how many people put their mobile numbers on there. And some people, when they fall out with their friends, they think it's very clever to put their mobile numbers on there. And suddenly people get a lot of hassle. They get a lot of bullying on the internet. They get loads of phone calls on their mobile phones, because everything you can do on the internet, you can do on a mobile phone nowadays. And suddenly your private life isn't private very much longer.
Do you have a case study to explain tactics used to entrap children when using social networking and IM or chat rooms?
I've got quite a good example actually. I went to a school just outside of the city to deliver a Think You Know programme to some Year 7s. And during the course of the presentation, a young girl said to me, Sharon, look, I want to have a quick word with you outside. So we carried on the presentation. Right at the end, we took her outside, had a little chat, and it manifested itself in as much as she was having an online relationship via Facebook with a boy that she thought was 13. But as a result of seeing some of the films and sort of discussing some of the things that were coming out in the presentation, it made her question, actually, was this guy as young as he was saying? And she'd actually arranged to meet him in sort of a couple of weeks' time, it was, a mutual venue. And it was through that disclosure that I made some further inquiries. I did some checks on some mobile phone numbers and some other bits and pieces. Did some other checks with some local forces, and indeed he wasn't who he said he was much older. And at that point we managed to intercept what was a grooming related incident.
Actually, quite interestingly, the reason I got involved in this, I've been involved with this particular organisation for about maybe 3.5 years. And part of the reason for getting involved in it was that I got contacted by a school that actually said to me that they'd had 3 children go to 3 different parts of the country to meet people they'd actually met online. And they thought they knew who they were going to meet. And not one of these people were the ages they said they were. And not one of them, you know, luckily for the girls that were involved, they all took somebody with them. So, you know, in that respect, they were safe. If they'd have been there by themselves, you know, we've had a case recently where that young girl was she murdered?
She was murdered.
She was murdered, where she actually showed up at her site,
It was a sex
believing
offender,
she was,
wasn't
yes, so believing she was actually going to meet somebody of her own age. And what actually happened, it was, he said, the guy that picked her up said he was the dad of the person she was going to meet, and he was actually a sex offender, and he murdered her. And this happens, and we're seeing this more and more and more often. So it is real life. It's not Mickey Mouse, it's real life.
What are your top tips to parents?
Parents really need to be educated, you know, and that's where Harry and I come in as well. We do parents' presentations as well to make them aware of what your kids are up to, really, you know, because technology's moving on and we can't keep up with it. So, you know, top tips for parents, number 1, don't let you have your laptops and your computers in your bedrooms, have it in a public space. Make sure that your parents are up to speed with all the different sort of technologies that are there, so instant messenger, Google Mail and all those things, so they can just keep abreast of what's going on.